Guys, it's your favorite reliability test guy here with another fun-filled, action-packed video on reliability test and validation topics. This current video is on Accelerometer Selection, how to choose an accelerometer for vibration and shock testing. I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. In this video, we will cover definitions, theory, and examples for accelerometer selection. Let's go ahead and start covering some definitions now. So what is an accelerometer? An accelerometer is a type of transducer that converts mechanical energy into an electrical signal, which is interpreted by a data acquisition system and compares the voltage with the accelerometer sensitivity and converts it to an acceleration in units of measurement as G's peak, G's, or G squared per hertz. The acceleration signal can also be converted to a velocity or displacement through integration, if those are the data points you are looking to capture. Pictured is an example of a single-axis and triaxial accelerometer. As you might have guessed, a single-axis accelerometer only measures acceleration in one direction or axis, per the axis of sensitivity, which we will cover later in this video. The second accelerometer is a triaxial accelerometer that measures three axes or three directions of the accelerometer. Care must be taken when using triaxial accelerometers, as these types of transducers tie up three channels on your data acquisition system. So if you run out of space, don't blame me and keep that in mind. The axis of sensitivity, when not indicated on the accelerometer, is typically the longest plane or surface of the accelerometer. Do not go by the accelerometer connector, as it can be placed in different locations and as a side post or a top post. Pictured is my highly detailed illustration on vibration test systems. An accelerometer can be used to either control the output from a vibration test system or measure the response of a DUT, which is a device under test. Depending on where the accelerometer is mounted and the setting for the accelerometer in the vibration test controller. To learn more about vibration test systems, vibration testing, or vibration controllers, check out my other videos. As the vibration test system begins to move, the accelerometer responds to the mechanical input and converts the energy into an electrical signal. So how do accelerometers work? For a compression type accelerometer, the accelerometer internal components consist of a seismic mass and a piezoelectric material. When the accelerometer has a mechanical input induced into the axis of sensitivity, the piezoelectric material is compressed by the seismic mass and releases an electric signal or charge. Another type of accelerometer is a shear type accelerometer. Again, it is comprised of a mass and a piezoelectric material. However, it produces a charge from a mechanical input based on shear force excitation. This is a perfect time to jump into some more theory. All right, let's go ahead and discuss accelerometer sensitivities. Accelerometers come in a wide range of different sensitivities. A rule of thumb to keep in mind is the lower the sensitivity, the higher the acceleration of it or G level an accelerometer can measure. Keep in mind that this is not the only metric you need to consider. You also need to think about parameters such as frequency response, temperature environment, and isolation. We will cover these things shortly. Why is sensitivity important when selecting an accelerometer? Well, choosing the wrong accelerometer for a test can have negative implications, such as signal clipping, where the G level input is higher than the accelerometer sensitivity range and causes the accelerometer to saturate, which looks like a flat plateaus in your signal response and your vibration or shock measurement data acquisition system. Additionally, frequency response is often correlated to the sensitivity and design of an accelerometer, so you can end up with discrepancies in your channel response when measuring vibration at certain frequencies. Likewise, not having the correct sensitivity and frequency response can cause you to have issues with your accelerometer control signal, which is really apparent when running mechanical shock tests. Let's go ahead and cover these topics. Pictured is an example of signal clipping. Notice how the peaks flatten out? If you see this, it is most likely not a real signal, and you have chosen the incorrect sensitivity for your accelerometer for that particular test. You need to understand the G levels for your test and the potential response of your system when selecting an accelerometer. Keep in mind the sensitivity you selected for your control accelerometer may not be adequate for your response accelerometer, as the response of your vibration test input could have a high transmissibility for your DUT, and it could saturate the response accelerometer. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at frequency response now. Pictured are two different accelerometer signal curves, with different frequency responses plotted as millivolts per G versus frequency on the graph. We will cover millivolts per G shortly. The usable frequency range of each accelerometer is the flat section of the signal curve. Notice the blue curve has a usable region at lower frequencies, while the red curve has a usable range at higher frequencies. This graph is a great way to visualize why accelerometer sensitivity and frequency response are important to consider depending on the parameters of your vibration or shock test. You can intuitively deduce from each of the curves that the blue curve signal for the accelerometer has a lower sensitivity, while the red curve accelerometer has a higher sensitivity. Keep in mind, though, this is typically how accelerometer parameters are considered, and it is a rule of thumb, but may not always be the case for every single accelerometer out there on the market. Let's go ahead and cover lack of control now. You can end up having a clipped signal or never reach your profile G levels if you select the wrong sensitivity accelerometer. Additionally, if the accelerometer you selected has a frequency response that is not in the range of your test, you can end up with poor control or even out of control lines, especially with mechanical shock testing. And as you might have guessed, not having the right accelerometer for your test can cause noise issues, control issues, or even cause your test to fall out of the test specifications, tolerances, parameters, or even cause a test abort. Let's go back to the discussion of accelerometer types. I've discussed the inner workings of compression and shear type accelerometers. Let's talk about another difference you will see with accelerometers. Charge mode and voltage mode type accelerometers. Charge mode accelerometers have a unit of measurement in picocoulombs per G. This is the raw signal output that is produced by an accelerometer when a piezoelectric material responds to mechanical excitations. Voltage mode accelerometers, on the other hand, have a unit of measurement of millivolts per G. This is a charge signal that has been processed and converted to a voltage. Let's go ahead and discuss how charge mode and voltage mode accelerometers work now, and their differences. First, we have the charge mode accelerometer. A charge mode accelerometer directly outputs a charge in picocoulombs per G. The charge signal is then transmitted to a signal conditioner, which converts the signal or charge signal into a voltage signal that the vibration test controller can interpret and process as acceleration. Next, we have the voltage mode accelerometer. A voltage mode accelerometer outputs a voltage in millivolts per G. You might ask, I thought you said that all accelerometers output a charge, Mr. Reliability Test Guy. Well, yes they do, but through the magic of integrated circuitry, the charge is conditioned inside of the accelerometer and converted to a voltage. It's almost like magic. Nope, it's called engineering. You would like to think you could get rid of that stupid signal conditioner box that's sitting on your bench, but alas, you can't. However, instead of converting a signal, the box used for a voltage mode accelerometer is a power supply, which some manufacturers still call a signal conditioner, which simply powers the integrated circuit within the accelerometer. But alas, there's hope! Many modern vibration controllers have an integrated power supply built in that directly powers the accelerometer inputs, which powers the IC inside of the voltage mode accelerometer, and eliminates the need for another stupid box. However, pro tip here, you might still need that stupid box on hand, as the power supply in most vibration test controllers is pretty weak and susceptible to noise. So if you're going to do a long run of accelerometer cable, say 50 feet or more, an external power supply may be the way to go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I think you know what time it is. Yes, it's time to do some examples. For the first example, we're going to go ahead and do my favorite thing, try to break stuff. And we're going to go ahead and start off with a 1000 G half sine shock pulse. We're going to go ahead and do that 3 times in the positive and negative direction, and for X, Y, and Z axes, just for good measure. We will perform this test at room temperature conditions in the test lab. If your eyes glazed over and you have no idea what I'm talking about with half sine and pulses and blah blah blah, feel free to check out my video on mechanical shock testing to get up to speed. In this example, we have 2 accelerometers to choose from. The first accelerometer has a 100 millivolt per G sensitivity. Note the max G level on the accelerometer and let's move on. Oh wait, also note the frequency response. Okay, let's move on. Next, we have a 2 millivolt per G sensitivity accelerometer. Once again, take a look at the max G level the accelerometer can handle and the frequency response. Alright, now for the billion-dollar question. Which accelerometer should we use? I'll give you a minute to decide. Okay, maybe 10 seconds. Okay, hurry up and answer now. This video is getting too long. Alright, let's go ahead and find out what the answer is. If you chose 100 millivolt per G sensitivity accelerometer for your test, you are absolutely wrong. What have you been doing this entire video? Sleeping? Tweeting how awesome my videos are? Okay, you get a pass for that excuse if you are tweeting how awesome my videos are. But seriously, go back and watch the first part of the video and before continuing. If you do not know why 100 millivolts per G is wrong, answer for this example. For those of you who chose the 2 millivolts per G, great work. That is the right answer. Thanks for watching this entire video so far and not falling asleep. Also recall from your notes that the 2 millivolt per G accelerometer also had a better lower frequency response, which is ideal for shock testing. Let's do another example now. This time we are going to run a vibration over temperature test with a temperature range of minus 60 degrees Celsius to positive 70 degrees Celsius. The GRMS for the random vibration test is 4 GRMS. The frequency range is from 20 Hz to 2000 Hz. The accelerometer will be attached to bare metal. Keep that in mind for later. This test is a production test that will run a production system as part of an ESS or environmental stress screening process. Again, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, watch my video on vibration testing. Again, we will have 2 accelerometers to choose from. The first is a bit of a curveball. It's not a voltage mode this time. It's a charge mode accelerometer. Again, note the parameters, including the temperature range, and let's move on. Next, we have a voltage mode accelerometer. Note the parameters, including the temperature range. Alright, so which should we use? If you chose the voltage mode, you wouldn't be wrong, and that could work. However, a voltage mode accelerometer, as you might recall, has an integrated circuit, while a charge mode accelerometer does not. Even though the voltage mode accelerometer is within the range of the temperature test, you don't want to use a voltage mode accelerometer long-term when performing temperature cycling, as you will fatigue and wear out the integrated electronics of the voltage mode accelerometer more rapidly through thermal stress. You might say, well, Mr. Reliability Test Guy, the charge mode accelerometer is not case isolated, while the voltage mode is, and you said we are attaching to bare metal. Good observation, my star student. However, you can use an isolation adapter with a non-isolated accelerometer to electrically isolate the accelerometer from ground and prevent ground loops as pictured. So I already got that curveball covered, so nice try trying to get me here. Alright, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Some key takeaways from this video are: recognize your application. Know if it is a shock test or a vibration test, what the G levels are, what the frequencies are, if the accelerometer needs to be case isolated or electrically isolated, and if you are using temperature in combination with the vibration or shock tests. Avoid pitfalls that we discussed. Don't use the wrong accelerometer sensitivity and frequency response for your test, or you will either have issues even running the test or getting the desirable results. Consider the environment that the accelerometer will be used in, and this doesn't apply to only the accelerometer itself. If you're using an accelerometer in an environment prone to corrosion, for instance, make sure you're using the proper hardware for attaching the accelerometer, and make sure the accelerometer itself is resistant to the environment it will be used in. A few more bonus pointers because I'm feeling extra helpful today. Consider your mounting strategy. You will want to use stud mounting whenever possible, as this gives you the most solid attachment to your test fixture or test specimen. However, depending on what you have to attach to and what you have to work with, you may end up having to use cyanoacrylate adhesives and, as a last resort or option, magnetic mounts. Again, keep in mind case or electrical isolation. Ground loops can easily hose your data and even screw up the control for your tests. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments about accelerometers, feel free to reach out to me at the link above or in the description links below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day!